But it's really important that if you still go through with intentional weight loss, that you don't sacrifice fat liberation politics, because otherwise it's still just fat phobia, even if you're doing it for your mental health and accessibility.
In our lead story, we have 2 video clips from Libs of TikTok that show one leftist saying that if you're going to lose weight, even if it's for health reasons, it's fat phobic and has something to do with white supremacy. And the other video talks about an individual, specifically a leftist, saying that if you're not going to give your kids puberty blockers, it's somehow transphobic. Folks, these videos are insane. Support us as always by hitting that like and subscribe button. Leave us a comment down below and just double check to make sure that bell notification icon says all notifications so you're notified whenever we upload or go live. With that being said, let's go ahead and roll the tape.
Generally speaking, there's 3 kind of big buckets of reasons why someone might engage in intentional weight loss. First is desirability, second, health, third, stigma. But at the end of the day, all of those are rooted in fat phobia in different ways, and I'll explain. First, desirability. That is kind of the most obvious when it comes to fat phobia. We currently live in a society that uplifts thinness, able-bodiedness, whiteness, cisness, and heterosexuality as the things that are most desirable. And so if you are wanting to lose weight in order to become more desirable, you are upholding a fat phobic beauty standard, as well as, white supremacy and all that jazz. So next is health.
Because of white supremacy and all that other jazz. We'll continue in just one moment. There is some truth to what this person is saying in terms of Western civilization uplifting people that have kind of a sporty physique or are skinny, another way of phrasing it. I mean, that part is true, but it also is true that there's evolutionary standards behind all this stuff in terms of what certain animals are looking for in a potential mate. But we're going to completely disregard all that time that happened in the past for today, because you have these leftists that are going to get upset when a guy doesn't want to mate with somebody that's highly obese or really overweight. And I would also like to point out that not every guy is going for a super skinny looking woman or a woman that's super fit. There's a lot of guys out there and a lot of guys I know that are into heavy set women. So that completely goes against what this person is saying. But because you want to make yourself look better to the opposite sex, you are now somewhat fat phobic, folks, according to the left. How that makes sense, I have no idea. They're going to sit there and concoct all this stuff in their mind and try to make sense of it all, and then present it here on TikTok for all of us to try to make sense of as well.
What we know is that weight is not a good indicator of someone's health, and also your health is not an indicator of your worth. You can have health and body related goals for yourself that are not about fat phobia and not about weight loss. So let me give you an example. You might decide that you have a goal of hiking a particular mountain in your area. Now, you would be engaging in different types of movement in order to achieve that goal. You may or may not lose weight in doing that. And in fact, there's lots of fat mountaineers and hikers. Third bucket reason is that you might be facing extreme fat phobia and anti-fat bias in your own life, and you have personally mentally hit a wall where you can't deal with it anymore, and so you decide to intentionally lose weight. That is actually the case with Roxanne Gay, who is very tall. They are like 6 foot or 6'1", and prior to their weight loss surgery, they would have been categorized as a super fat. So being a super fat and being that tall comes with a particular type of physical accessibility challenge as well as anti-fatness. And so for that reason, Roxanne Gay elected to have weight loss surgery. But it's really important that if you still go through with intentional weight loss, that you don't sacrifice fat liberation politics, because otherwise it's still just fat phobia, even if you're doing it for your mental health and accessibility.
So, you guys, this is so crazy. I was laughing way too hard. I mean, I'm literally sweating here to try and give you commentary on this video clip that we're watching. But somehow, if you want to make yourself feel better because you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you're fat phobic. So this is the push by the left. Life has gotten so good. This is the type of stuff they focus on. But it's not just that. We have a psychologist and an LGBTQ activist saying that not giving a kid puberty blockers is transphobic. I mean, the craziness does not end, folks. Let's go ahead and roll it.
Not allowing a child to use puberty blockers is simply just transphobic. It just is what it is.
I'm sorry, right at the beginning. I'm getting Pine Sol Lady right off the bat. It's Pine Sol, baby. It's Pine Sol. I gotta have some fun with this, folks, but let's continue. I'm sorry.
There's no real reason not to. Puberty blockers just allows a child to kind of freeze, allows their look to freeze, to stay in place. It gives them more time, essentially, to decide whether they want to go further with any medical transition. At any point while using puberty blockers, a child can stop and essentially just have the natural puberty that they would have, but a few years later. But a lot of people...
That's actually not true. There are puberty blockers that stop puberty from progressing in certain aspects. There's also other mechanisms that take place, like your bone density, your bone mass not fully developing as it should. So what this person is saying is complete lies. I know there's this big push by the progressive left to say that puberty blockers or hormone enhancers, whatever it may be, well, that has no effect on your body, really. Once you stop taking them, well, you'll just progress. That's not technically fully true. I would say maybe it's true for a lot of the things that they're talking about in terms of these puberty blockers, but there are some where that's just not the case, and it has ramifications on a child's health and then progressing through puberty. So not fully true here, what this person's saying.
People evolve differently as far as puberty. You know, it seems like some people don't hit puberty until they get in their 20s. And puberty blockers will essentially allow a gender variant child the opportunity.
I know I keep pausing, but did this person just say that there's people that are hitting puberty in their 20s like it's just anybody and everybody? I don't know much, but I'm pretty sure that's not the case. I'm really sure that's not the case. I'm trying to keep it together through this episode.
To wait until they get older to go through a puberty. It's no big deal. Puberty blockers don't cause breast development. Puberty blockers don't affect anybody's voice. They'll essentially stay in that childlike look, their own childlike look, for a little longer. Then if you don't let your child go on puberty blockers, then you be embarrassed. Little trans girl sounded like Caitlyn Jenner. Be scared to take the child in public, want to pretend that she's deaf.
What? What? How do we get on this whole deaf thing that she's going to want to be out in public being deaf? It ain't no big deal. It's just Pine Sol, baby. It ain't nothing. It ain't nothing to put your little baby on some puberty blockers because she's trans. Come on. Come on. This is so ridiculous.
Got the little trans boy out here clocky. Don't nobody want to be clocky. Ain't nobody trying to be clocky because we got to deal with so much bullshit in this superficial society and being clocky. Or pretend that the trans child don't exist. I've seen a lot of that in my work.
Okay, if you don't know what clocky is, from my understanding, and I could be wrong, so let me know in the comments if I am. I think clocky is when a trans person doesn't pull off looking trans, meaning if a guy's trying to be a woman and he's wearing women's clothing, he doesn't pull it off, which, by the way, is the vast majority of trans people. You could tell that they're trans. A guy could tell what another dude looks like. I know that we're not allowed to say that out loud, but it's very, very easy where you see somebody like 3 football fields away going, that's definitely a dude the way they're talking with their shoulders, you know, what's up, dude? Like all that stuff, we could tell. Obviously, I'm being facetious with the 3 football fields, but you get the point.
But you ain't doing yourself no favors, you ain't doing the child no favors, and you're not changing their mind. By not letting a child go on puberty blockers, somebody who is trans and will transition, by not letting them go on puberty blockers, you're essentially just making it harder for them to transition. They're going to likely end up getting more plastic surgery or being more insecure with the way that they look as an adult.
That's completely false. The vast majority of the people that think they're one thing end up doing away with that and stick with the kind of the sex that they were assigned at birth. Meaning if you're male and at a young age you think that you're female, you're going to revert back to thinking that you're male if that is the case. So this, what this person's saying is just spewing a bunch of garbage and nonsense here, but I'll let her continue here so we can finish up listening to this nonsense.
What's the point of that? Give your trans child the best opportunity at life as possible. Puberty blockers help to offer that. It's not a big deal. It's really not.
Well, it is a big deal statistically because we all know the suicide rate for people that are trans or part of the LGBTQ community. But we can't talk about that again. We can't talk about any of this stuff because if we do, we're transphobic, we're fatphobic, like we saw in the other video, or whatever it may be. We're bigots, sexist, pushing cisgendered, white privilege, all this nonsense here, where it's like, if your kid's going to be trans, then they can make that decision at 18 because they live under your roof, and you as the adult that actually has the cognitive capacity to understand all these things, where a child does not. I know that's not believed by the progressive left. You make those decisions for your child. And if they want to go have all those enhancements and sex changes when they're 18 and all these other things, go right ahead. Have fun with it. But until then, a child should not be able to have their breasts removed, their genitals removed, which is allowed in some states, and pushing all this stuff in the classroom upon kids, grooming them to have this done, not even letting their parents know. This stuff is wild, folks. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below, because this is crazy and it ain't going to stop until we rise up and try to push back and make it stop. I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Bald Brad Show. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our future content.